Johnny Hansen, Scotty G, Tuesday from noon to 3 at My Hearing Centers, 8941 South, 700 East in Sandy. DJ PK, and we're joined now by RSL head coach Pablo Mastroeni. Pablo, good morning.
Good morning, guys.
Pablo, 8 games left in the season. The playoff race is on. Everybody should be peaking, and you're introducing new guys. Do you still wear name tags? Does everybody know everybody's names? Stuff's been changing fast, Pablo.
It's been crazy. And again, I think this is why, from a macro level, the league's trying to get the seasons to align with, Europe and most of the world. Because again, bringing guys in with 8 games left, especially at the most critical juncture of the season, where most teams need to make a late run and push for the playoffs. You're getting to know guys, and I've been asked a lot of times is how can you expedite that? And I think, human relations and coming into teams take time. And that's why preseasons are always long. And that's why you spend a lot of times together. That's why you do double days, is to get to know the people along with their playing abilities. So it's much more than just adapting to the way we want to play. It's also getting to know their teammates and who they are and what they're really good at and how they can help you. So, but to be fair, I think with Victor and Uwan and also now it's DeAndre, these are guys that have a bit of experience, have played in other countries. And so I think the adaptation phase is going to be as quick as it can possibly be, but not without hurdles, obviously.
Do you have a particular formula to use that you like to use in this circumstance, these circumstances, I should say, knowing that each person is different? I'm just wondering how you individually go about it, because it seems like you have to do it several times every season.
Yeah. No, I don't think there's a right way. I think the first thing that I need to do, PK, is understand their knowledge of the game and where they're coming from, what their experiences are. So as with all the guys, they come in, they have like an introductory course to our game model. This is how we play. This is, these are the expectations. And then, the thing with time that's really important is what we want is the players to understand the way we play in general terms, but then for the players to express themselves with their skill sets, right? And so, like last year, for example, Chicho and Andres Gomez were 2 players that almost played on the fringes of the game model. But with time, people got to understand what their things were and understood how to play off them. So I think the most important thing is one, to give them a brief introduction as to how we want to play, but then is allowing them to express themselves. Because I think, again, if you're overthinking what the tactics are, then you get that paralysis by analysis, and that's the last thing we need with 8 games left. And so if there's micro adjustments, from last game that we saw with Cruz and Olatunji, then we sat with them and said, hey, in this phase, this is where I think it could benefit you, right? This is where you can get the ball in better positions. And so we'll keep making those adjustments, but it's not easy, and I think every case is different. And then the major factor you have to take into consideration is their level of experience, right? Have they played for different teams? Have they traveled the world? Do they already have this? Because if the human isn't settled, the soccer player isn't going to be settled either. So the good thing with these 3 guys is that they've traveled, they're experienced, and they understand how to get to new places and quickly, get the boots on and start playing their game.
Because Yedlin has been playing, can you just slide him right into the starting 11 and expect him to go 90 minutes right out of the gate?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think that's the bonus of getting experienced players, right? Like, he's going to be able to nuance his way through everything that we're doing with only having 1 training session, right? So yesterday he trained with us. Today we'll walk through a few more things. But, what DeAndre brings is a great level of experience, competitiveness, and his defending 1v1 is really, really good. And so what it allows us to do is be a little bit more aggressive, sending numbers forward, knowing that you have guys like, Jay Glad, Brian Vera, and Yedlin on the back line that can really run down, and more importantly, from a physical perspective, really robust. So I feel good about putting them in from the start. I talked to him yesterday, and I asked him, I said, this is what I would like to do. But again, the most important thing is your level of comfort with it, because if you don't believe in it, it doesn't matter what I believe. So he said, no, I'm ready to go.
I'm looking at the franchise and all the massive change that has gone on in just even last year, let alone a couple years if you want to go even back more. And it looks like now with the Millers, Steve Starks is a guy we've known for years. It looks like you got ownership stability, and it also looks like you've got management, executive stability with all the guys you've got in place. When I say you, I mean the collective, not the individual. I'm wondering do you see a time where maybe soon that it trickles down to the roster and then we have stability in the roster, because obviously there's been a lot of change there too.
Mm-hmm. That's a great question, and I do feel different now that the Millers have taken over, and obviously Steve Stark's spearheading the group, and just the interaction has been, again, I think it's a lot easier to work with an ownership group when they're in the building, when they live here in Utah. And obviously they're really proud of the state, really proud of what they've been able to accomplish with other franchises. But they want to make this a perennial playoff team. And obviously one of the things that we talked about was experience, and how do we help these young guys develop. And for me, it's always been having peers, teammates that play on the field and help guide them, especially in critical moments in games, right? So developing players is always really difficult, but I think the way to expedite that is having some really good experienced players. And I think these 3 players that we brought in will definitely help the likes of Gozo, on the front line, and on the back line. You have Philip Quinton, who's still, in his nascent stages of his career. And I think having a guy like Yedlin on the back line and seeing how the angles he takes on. So I think that we're in a good spot. And obviously it'll take a little bit more time, but I really love the way, that Steve communicates with, Jason and Kurt. And then, and it just, I think the most important thing in any endeavor is alignment, whether, you're a player on a team or whether, you're in an organization, is the alignment that we're all seeing things the same way. And if we don't see it the same way, let's talk about it. Let's find the solution. And so I think the communication has increased 1,000-fold since the Millers took over. And I think that's the most important thing, so that everything is clear, the vision is clear, the objectives are clear, and the team that we want to be is clear. And then every day we work towards that as a group.
That answer reminded me a couple of things. One, I remember in the early days of the club when you were still playing in Colorado, it felt really different when Dave Checketts was in town or he was out of town. And I asked him about that once, and he's like, "What are you talking about?" And I realized, well, he doesn't know what it's like when he isn't here. How can he, right? But it was just his presence and his vibe. It just changed things. And the other thing, to PK's point about the roster, at the end of that session yesterday, Wiki Trey, as we like to refer to him, told us that when Yedlin plays, he'll be the 13th player to debut for RSL this year.
Wow.
Right? Wow. 30 guys on the roster, 11 on the field, and you've had 13 new guys debut, which tells me there's some guys who aren't there anymore who just weren't good enough. So you have to have change to get better players, but you can't have this constant change, which, to PK's point, really dates back to 2013 when Jason left. It's been basically one change every year, either the head coach, the GM, or the ownership. I think you need a couple changes to get right there, but you get the point. I mean, it's like 11 changes in 13 years or something like that.
Yeah, no, I think it's always tough. And I think consistency is critical. I think building these relationships on the field, and I think the club in the past did a really good job with guys like Beckerman and Nick Raimondo and Nat Borchers and Ned Grabavoy. I mean, Javi. These guys were year in, year out, and then there's 2 or 3 new pieces, auxiliary pieces that complemented these players, but that was really the core of the team. And I think if you look at successful teams, Seattle's another good example of this, where they have the Roldan brothers and they have Jordan Morris and now Albert there for 4 years. And the consistency in these players breeds, optimism. And then you bring in a draft pick. Then you bring in a guy from the academy to grow these guys, but there's always a consistent core of experienced players that really drive this thing. And then with that comes the accountability that these players hold themselves to. And so when it's all new, people are scared to kind of say things because they don't know where they stand. But when you build a good core of players, there's accountability within that group, 6 or 7 players, and that spreads to the new players. So you're actually growing young leaders as well that understand what good cultures feel like. And I think that's important. And I think we're in our nascent stages of that. But again, I think through all this season, there's been some real bright spots in Noah Kaliskin and Gozo, who are just cutting their teeth professionally. And there's bright spots. And I think if we can continue to build this core, those 2 players in particular will reap the benefits of consistency within the roster.
I liked what you said after the last game, the 2 East Coast trip games. You said, I'm just bemused at what has occurred in the last couple of games. And I think bemused is just a great word. And I got to believe that you learned that from some upper-level English classes on the campus of 19th Avenue and Thunderbird Road in Phoenix, right?
Yeah, I had a great English teacher. His name was Mr. Sargent.
Oh, yeah, Ray Sargent? Absolutely.
Yeah. Crazy, right?
You 2 guys going to the same high school, knowing the same teacher, and now talking soccer 20, 30, 40 years later. This is really weird.
So I did learn something at Thunderbird High.
That was a great word, bemused. I liked it.
Yeah, it was the only word that popped into my mind because sometimes it's hard to express emotions or a state of mind. But that's the one that popped up, and I think it's the way I kind of felt given the calls that we're on weekly with the league and the referee committee and the things that happen. So, I forgot who I talked to earlier this week, but they said, usually these things, balance themselves out. And I was like, well, we have 8 games left. So I think every game we should be getting a call that is, if not favorable, just, it's just. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Was it easier to accept that was not a handball on Tim Ream, or was it easier to accept that was not a red card on Zaha when Emeka Eneli got thrown to the ground?
Well, I just think the handball, DJ, because I think that is the way that we've been watching games for the last so many years, and this call does change from year to year, but the information that we get in preseason ends up always getting trumped with, through actions during the season. So this is he didn't make his body big. And I'm like, well, he didn't reach, his hand wasn't in the air, but it was still in a position where, the ball hit his hand. So my whole thing is that these handballs, this is my idea. I think if there's a handball penalty called, there should be a shot from the top of the D, so about 22 yards out. And it's like a PK, but it's at the top of the D. It's not a penalty kick from 12 yards out. So it doesn't carry the same weight as getting tackled in the box. Mm-hmm. So that way the chances of scoring, go down a little bit more because it's a little further distance. And maybe these calls don't have the same weight because I think we keep trying to figure out how we're going to figure out this handball thing. And I don't think you'll ever figure it out because it becomes so subjective. So if the handball stands according to the rules, there's a shot from 22 yards out to the goalkeeper. And I think at that point it's it kind of balances it out versus trying to figure out something that I don't think has a solution.
I just called it up, Pablo. He's deceased now. He graduated from Glendale High School and ASU, where he also received his Ph.D. in English. So absolutely you learned from a phenomenal English teacher. He was an Army veteran. Ray was a caring and dedicated teacher at Thunderbird High School for 29 years.
Wow. He was a good man. He was a really good man.
And for some reason, it bugs DJ. I don't know why.
I think it's hilarious. It's not bugging me. I'm bemused. I'll just say that. I'm bemused.
Well, that's the power of a teacher. All these years later, the student recalls what he learned from the teacher and remembers his name.
When my dad died, and there was the day before the funeral, there was a thing at the funeral home, a viewing, and there was a student who showed up who had a story about my dad, and it really did show the power of teachers. And it was It was a crazy story, and it was exactly how my dad would express himself. And my brother and I, as this guy drove, he said, I have an art show tomorrow or I would be at the funeral. I can't be there, but your dad taught me how to do this, and now I got a show. But I want to come tell you this story. And he's there with his, I think it was his fiance or the newlywed, whatever. And she's there barely saying a word, and he's telling the story. The guy got kicked out of an art program, and my dad comes down holding this thing in his head. Nobody kicks kids out of this program except me. Well, that's a heck of a way to express yourself. But the point was, this kid needs to be in. I'll decide if he's not good enough, and he's good enough, and he's in. And now the kid's the kid just had to drive and tell us. So yeah, the power of teachers, and that's just the story I know because it's my dad. But I think lots of teachers have stories like that.
Teachers change the world. They're amazing.
Yeah,
and I could have been. I was this close. I actually, after I graduated, I went back and got my teaching certificate, and I student taught at Deer Valley High School.
Wow.
Yeah.
And coached baseball and was still putting the uni in on game day, looking in the mirror like the dream hasn't died yet. Ron Say's job could be mine.
I was 22 and I felt like I was 12 again with that uniform on. I don't know what it was.
BK, instead of doing radio, could be spitting sunflower seeds in the dugout trying to figure out how to win a 6th state championship or something. All right, we have to break you Thunderbird High guys up because we got somebody else coming. And Pablo, you got a game to get ready. Minnesota sang a place. Wow, they are flying right now.
Mm-hmm.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
It's going to be a great game. The guys been training great. We're going to get one break, and then we're going to take care of our business. So I'm really looking forward to the game this weekend or tomorrow.
Thanks, Pablo.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Pablo Mastroeni, RSL head coach, and with Seattle advancing in the League's Cup, they're not going to have a game on the 30th because that game's going to be moved because Seattle's got to play in the League's Cup, and then it's an international date, so they'll have this game and have a little break and probably a little mini training camp to acclimate some of these new guys, and then it'll be on the 7 games down the stretch to see what happens. They're sitting in 10th place now, and they are 1 point out of the playoffs.
That Seattle game moved to October 11th.
Yeah, it all hangs in the balance now. DJ and PK, we'll take a break. When we come back, David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz. Stay with us.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
Now that we know it's Bear, does it reset your expectations for BYU season at all?
Reset from what? I have no idea what the expectations are. We were talking about
right,
that. What do you mean reset from?
You've not thought about this upcoming 2025 BYU football season.
Do you
in the
have
slightest.
any idea if the Bear is any good? Do you have any clue?
No, that's exactly the question. That's why I'm asking you the question.
You said reset. Reset from what?
From if McKay had been the guy.
No, I don't know anything about him either.
Okay.
I don't know. BYU fans are like, he could be Cam Rising. You don't know that.
Of course. Yeah,
he doesn't know that.
No, nobody knows.
Nobody knows that.
You're right. We don't know what to expect.
He could throw an interception to a defensive end on his first pass. No, my expectations haven't changed at all because they've got a good team with a quarterback, the most important position.
Hear Jake Scott and Ben Anderson every day from 10 to noon on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Business owners, heed the call. I want to help you make money, man. PK wants to endorse your product. Here's what you do. You text PK to 57500. Our sales staff will be in touch. Let's get together. Make some money. Text PK 57500.
DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone.
All we are is dust in the wind. How I hate that song.
Kansas and Kansas State opening the college football season.
Oh, he turns it up.
When that thing was a hit.
That was
down
a hit?
the hill, down the hill across the street.
Not in my
there
world.
was a house getting re-roofed, and the roofers had the music on loud. I could hear it. I was out working in our yard, and I'm in high school, and that song, whatever the station they were listening to, that song seemed like it came on once every hour.
Ugh.
It was in heavy rotation.
Not a fan.
Well, it's not a birthday. Aren't you happy?
No. I mean, I get it. It makes sense with the
Kansas and Kansas State playing tomorrow.
I'm totally on board with that. Absolutely. I'm excited. I mean, I've already told you, I'm going to bed early tonight. I'm getting up early. I'm going to the gym and going to have all that stuff done, my stretching and everything done. I'm going to sit on the couch.
You don't have to get your stretching done. You can stretch in front of the game, can't you?
Some of the stretches, like...
you can't watch the screen facing away or twisting away or whatever.
Yeah. So I want to take care of all that. I'll have the ice pack on the back to help it along, and I'm gonna watch the entire game.
2 of the 7, 8, or 9 teams that might end up in the Big 12 title game.
There's a resurgence there with Kansas for sure. Kansas State, I think, has been good for a number of years.
They have been.
And Iowa State is a very solid program. And I think both of these programs are capable of going to the playoff and winning in the playoff.
DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. We are joined now by David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz. David, good morning.
Good morning, David. Patrick, my goodness, another Friday. It makes me feel complete, makes my life good, makes me happy when I think of the depth of our friendships, the length of time we've been together. It's just awesome to talk to you in the morning.
Right on.
All right, David. You said something last week that got PK going, and he talked to me about it over the weekend, and we've talked about it a little bit during the show, but we want to get back to you.
I don't even remember talking to PK last week. The only reason I'm doing this is I thought I'd missed like 3 weeks in a row.
No, you were here last week.
You were here last week.
I'm just kidding.
Okay. So you said Markkanen signed a 4-year deal, and you thought the deal he signed with the way things are going in the league now, you didn't think he'd be traded, and you thought he would be on the team the next time the Jazz were in the playoffs. Now, he signed for the next 4 seasons. They've missed the playoffs 3 years in a row. If you're right and he doesn't get traded and he plays all 4 years, he probably would be on the next team, unless you think they're going to go 7 years without making the playoffs. How far away are they? How long will it take? But right now, the Hornets at 9 and the Spurs at 6 are the 2 teams that have gone the longest without playing in the postseason. So, was that your logic there, that he's going to be here all 4 years and that the rebuild is going to bear some fruit in that time span and not going to have some 7-year streak?
I mean, I think the logic is multifaceted, and that's part of it, is that if we are going to make the playoffs sometime in the next, we're not making the playoffs this year. We're probably not making the playoffs next year. So then the question is, does it accelerate? Does it happen in year 3 of his deal or year 4 of his deal, or is it that he's going to actually re-sign another deal after that? I still think we're really far away, right? Like, we have the lowest, over-under of any team in the NBA right now. You can't be further away. But when it accelerates, it will be done with Lowry as a part of it. And that's why Lowry is important to keep on the roster right now. If you take Lowry off the roster, you still have to fill the salary slot. You can't just – the day and age of going down to $60 million salary and then just piecing it back together is over because of the new collective bargaining agreement. So you might as well have Lowry on the roster so that when you do try to get better, you have a player. And then the other thing that I do think that Lowry's contract makes it very difficult to trade him. At $40+ million, the way the league's going right now, I don't think your third best player can be $40+ million. I think Lowry's a third player. Because unless you have one of your front players under cost control, which means they're still on the rookie deal. And in the case of the Jazz, if they're going to make the playoffs in the next 3 or 4 years, it's going to be because Ace Bailey or AJ or whoever they draft this year starts to click in, and by year 3 or 4 is ready to go. They're probably your second best player at that point. You've probably signed your best player as a free agent. Lowry's your third best player. Now you're really good and you're ready to go. And that's the route. So I think Lowry is important for the Jazz to have him as a part of their roster so that when they do kick in, you have a piece that's good, and he's really, really good. And part 2, I think the negative for other teams, which is that his salary is now over-slotted for probably a third best player on a team, is not a problem for the Jazz. So you combine those 2 things, and I think Lowry will be on the team next time the Jazz play in the playoffs.
How about also that you just can't get anything close to value, so what's the point of trading him?
Right, and you have to take back salary.
Yeah.
Like there was a period of time where you could do this and you just saved a bunch of money. But despite what Draymond Green says with his, 2/3 knowledge on most topics he talks about, the fact is, yes, there is a salary issue going on with a hard cap where players are not getting some money and things of that nature, but the bottom of the league is getting more money. And the allocation of money to the players is the exact same as what it was prior. And so, yeah, it's capping certain teams from spending. But the other rule that no one talks about in this new collective bargaining agreement is that you have to be at 90% of the salary cap. That's really new. And, the Jazz, the George Niang deal, I think, is partially the Jazz needed to get to the salary floor. And so what a better way to do it than with maybe the best human being I've ever met in the NBA and have him on your roster and hit the salary floor. And that's what the Jazz, so you have to be at the salary floor now. So if you trade Lowry, you're not doing it and not bringing back $40 million worth of contracts. You have to have those contracts.
Well, there's 30 teams and somebody's got to lose. So they have to be bad teams across whatever the bottom 5, 10, 12, whatever teams. If they have to pay 90%, then there's going to be bad players
trying to create,
get overpaid.
The league's trying to create it that there aren't bad teams.
Well, okay.
That's what the league is trying to create, is that there are not 2 or 3 teams on top that are so dominant because they're spending the way Golden State did for those years, or back in the past, we go back to other teams over the years that just overspent everyone. That doesn't always work, but it does work a little. And they're trying to make sure that there's not a team like the Oklahoma City Thunder a few years ago where literally they decided, we only want to talk about how great all the Thunder things are, but they did a lot of things to really damage the league. One of the things they did was they decided to pay well under the salary floor, and then the way the rule worked, it meant that they were like $10 million on the floor, and every player on their roster got $1 million. So the league changed the rule, and now if you're under the salary floor, it just goes into a pot that goes to the players. It doesn't go to your players. So they de-incentivized ever being – it actually was to your advantage to be under the salary floor before and all your players' advantage. Now they've changed that, and so every team in the league has to be at 90%. And I think you just will have less terrible teams. You're still going to have as many teams that lose, right?
Yeah, but you're going to have bad teams. Yeah, bad players are going to get overpaid. Or mediocre, not bad, mediocre players are going to get paid like stars.
Yeah, or Joe Ingles is going to get a contract on a year where it just doesn't seem to make sense. Right? Like Joe's kind of done, right? Like he didn't play much last year, and yet he got another year. Well, okay, because there's some value to that. But I also think that you're just going to have teams, Utah's about as torn down as you can be right now and has Lowry at $40 million. Washington is about as torn down, but they've got Chris Middleton and a few other players that are veteran players that are pretty good. What they're going to do with them, we'll see. But they can put out a pretty viable 5.
So what happens as far as playing time, do you think, with guys like Kyle Anderson, Kevin Love? You already mentioned Niang.
So I'll be surprised if we see Kevin Love this year, but maybe not. Maybe that's that. I'm actually surprised he's still officially on the roster at this point. I would have thought that maybe he would have moved by now, and maybe not. Maybe Kevin Love's at a stage in his career where he did used to either own a house or lived a summer or two in Park City. So maybe he's deciding, like, actually, I want to be here and be a veteran leader. And he's, I don't know, but I didn't expect him to stick around. I think that's the Drew Eubanks, Patty Mills, Sima Hyluk role of last year. For those guys, which is be ready, be a pro, help our young kids. And, inevitably, Isaiah Collier and Walter Clayton and these guys are going to struggle miserably at some point in the year. And rather than letting their head get bashed in again, you let Kyle Anderson play a little bit and relieve them of the burden. Or, maybe Walter Clayton and Isaiah Collier are really struggling and we're just not even getting into our offense. We're not getting – okay, that's actually – Kyle Anderson's basically a point guard. So you have him come in as a veteran and get people settled. Maybe, Kyle's really struggling and other guys are this. And you bring Kevin Love in to have some semblance of order on the basketball floor. I think, you have to be a little careful of having – it's cute and it's fun, but we all have watched it. When you have 5 kids under the age of 22 or 23 on the floor together – it can get pretty ugly pretty fast, and no one's gaining anything out of that. So those guys can be valuable to hold the order a little bit and to give a semblance of organization.
We're seeing the international basketball tournaments happening now. Markkanen's lighting up Poland and whoever else. And we're seeing
It really seems almost unfair when he kills those guys, doesn't he?
Yeah, they don't have
7-1,
any.
7-1. Like what? Who's the guy from Rocky, Drago or whatever? Like like the greatest physical specimen on the planet. Lowry is like seriously a superior physical specimen, and then there's this like 6'4" Polish guard trying to deal with him. Yeah, it seems really almost unfair.
We're seeing Kansas State and Iowa State go to Ireland and play a college football game. We're seeing the NFL go to multiple countries. Is the NBA at some point here going to be opening the season with everybody going and playing a couple games overseas before they come back? I mean, it's an international sport, but the NBA doesn't play foreign games at the rate other sports seem to be.
So it's interesting you bring this up. So I actually talked to Adam about this, Adam Silver, probably now a long time ago, probably 8 years ago, because Adam Silver in his first, maybe even longer, but when he was first taking over as commissioner, he actually came into town, and I finished an interview with him. And he was like, "Okay, you've been in the league." He's like, "I looked you up. You've been in the league for 17 years. What would you do?" And of course, I had an answer because you would too, David. And one of the things I said is I would start the entire league overseas in 4-team tournaments. Kind of, I was doing the in-season cup, but and I'd have the Brazil Cup, and I'd have the Tokyo Cup, and I'd have the London Cup, and and you expand to 32, and you send 8 groups of 4 around the country to do this, and that's how you start the season. And you come back and have an extended training camp, and you compete a little less with football in your season. And he said it's a great idea, but every arena has a lease for 43 home games. And so the leases for these basketball arenas mean that you have to play a certain amount of home games, and that prohibits your ability to take what is 1 or 2 of these home games out of and put them overseas. And so until those leases change, I don't think you can do that. I do think, though, I will take this from an international standpoint. I wonder a little bit whether the stalling on expansion, which was very clear in the last meeting that they were going to look at it, but it was not here comes Seattle and here comes Vegas, is not that the next move, and it's probably 5 years from now, is 4 teams, 1 in London, 1 in Barcelona, 1 in Paris, and 1 in Berlin. And that's actually the next move. It's a 4-team expansion. Maybe Memphis ends up in Seattle. Maybe some other franchise ends up in Vegas, and you move things around in the States. But that the next major move is a 4-team expansion. I don't quite know how you do the math with 34, but I do think it's very doable. I think that, for example, how you do it travel is the first question. The Utah Jazz go off and play a game against Charlotte and Orlando, and then they fly to Europe and they play all 4 teams. And I actually think the entire division of 4 goes over with them at the same time. And so those teams know they have an extended homestand. You go over and play. You probably play Philadelphia on the way back, and then you come to Utah and get 3 or 4 days off. It's a 7-game road trip. It's definitely longer. Maybe you'd reduce the schedule down to 76 at that point in some way, or do something of that sort, which is hard with the arena thing I just talked about. But I think that's the next. I'm not sure that that's off the table for expansion. I keep wondering, there's just not enough of a pro for the owners right now to add Seattle and Vegas. It doesn't do them. It doesn't add TVs. It doesn't add a fandom. It doesn't change the league. It just adds teams. And that's why I think there's a reluctancy to it, and nobody wants to divide $44 billion or whatever the whatever that $1 billion TV contract was amongst 2 other teams. So you go add that to that league, and the NBA is already kind of dancing right now with this new European league. I think that's setting the groundwork by which we expand into Europe and be the first professional league to be worldwide.
I think they should open in St. George with 4 teams, and then we could have the Dixie Cup.
Sounds great.
Good answer, David. That was very flat line.
Thanks for contributing today, PK.
All right, I got one more for you. You mentioned AJ, and that's DeBonsa. So obviously they're going to lose and be in the position, and then we'll see how the lottery shapes out, and maybe they get lucky this time instead of whatever. But with the veterans that you mentioned, because that was my prior question, Markkanen being the lead guy, obviously, and then those other guys that are at the tail end, you don't see a situation, even if those guys play, and Markkanen plays 65 games and averages 32 minutes a game, you still don't see a way that would get the Jazz out of the lottery, right? They'd still have some pretty good odds to be able to, or as good odds as you can get, I guess, to have this opportunity to get a kid like DeBonsa.
Yeah, the roster as it's structured right now, for us to win more than 25 games,
no matter what,
would mean that Keontae has to really click in as a bona fide NBA number 2 scorer with efficiency. Would mean that, obviously Walker would have to, I don't think Walker's kind of shown what he is, but he'd have to be an elite defensive force. Lowry would have to have an all-star year, which really, if you look at Lowry's numbers, they've never been the same since Mike Conley left. So I'm not sure that all-star level Lowry, it wasn't a little bit of a Mike Conley creation. Ace Bailey would have to just be way readier than – I expect Ace Bailey to shoot 38% this year and have a terrific year. Like, I think if you go back and look at LeBron, he shot 41% and Kevin Durant shot 41% as rookies. Like, I don't think you shoot much more than that, like, as a rookie. And I think Ace will shoot 38%. Like, I just can't – like, Ace Bailey would have to shoot 45%, average 19 points. Taylor Hendricks would have to become like a bona fide defensive force, averaging 15 and 7. I think he could probably do that after the All-Star break. I just can't find a script. The amount of things that have to happen for this roster to be a 30-win team. I mean, maybe Will stun us in some way, and maybe, but I can't put that together in my head. Like Vegas has us at 18.5 or 17.5. It's the lowest number since the 76ers process team. Like, Vegas doesn't miss by 20 games.
Yeah. And Vegas is real.
Fine. I think that
they're usually spot on.
And I don't mean that negatively. Like,
no, I got you. Yeah.
But like this is the point.
Reality
is like, right. Like I suspect, like, I'm being harsh here for a second. Like, I suspect there's going to be a moment in time where Isaiah Collier doesn't play in a game. Like, that he's shooting 22% from 3.
DNP-CD?
Yeah, at some point, and Will's like, yeah, you know what, if you don't, you're shooting 22% from 3, if you don't defend at 75 feet every minute of every day, that you're not going to make it in this league. But there's a little bit of, that they've unleashed or handcuffed Will Hardy to be able to really coach these guys now.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, yeah. And at that press conference, he could not have embraced that more.
Right.
Are you looking forward to? Very. Very. It was a 2-word answer. He said very twice. It was awesome.
Right. And I don't mean that, I think Isaiah Collier's terrific. I think he's a wonderful kid, first of all, as a person. Second of all, his desire, his passion, his energy. I think he's got a future in the league. He's got to figure out what it is. But, I can't get over the fact that in Summer League, he ran a pick and roll at 15 feet and they went under.
They do not respect
that's a problem.
Him. Yeah.
You can't. If they're going under as a point guard at 15 feet, you're going to have a hard route to being an NBA player. That's just the facts. I go back to Will Hardy's comment in a press conference last year at about Game 74, where he got asked about, he might as well have been asked about whether he thought Pluto was a planet, because it didn't matter what he was asked. And his answer was, there's a bunch of guys starting on this team, and it doesn't mean they're NBA starters. Just because you start on this team doesn't mean you're the NBA. He was sending the message really clearly to a bunch of his guys that you're getting time right now, but it does not mean you're NBA established. And that was a very clear message. And these guys, actually, to their credit, have all taken that message, because the amount of time they've spent here, the amount of work, how they've transformed their bodies. I saw Bryce yesterday or 2 days ago. He looks wildly different. Taylor's incrediable how much his body has transformed. I hope we can do before and after pictures of Taylor, because it's amazing. So these guys have done all the work. They've shown all the effort. Now it's hard. Now the hard work. They've done that. They've done what they can control, which is beautiful. But now it's time against the greatest players in the world to see where you rank up, and it's super hard. And I think we're going to see – I just can't see the amount of – where the conversation started, there's 4 or 5 things that would have to happen for us to suddenly be a 30-win team. It would be a hell of a story. It'd be pretty awesome. And it would mean that Keontae is bona fide, that Taylor is a starter, that Isaiah has figured out how to play point guard, that Ace Bailey is – not 18 somehow, that Walker is still leading the league in offensive rebounds and block shots and a force inside. There's a bunch of pieces, and Lowry's having an all-star caliber year. then maybe you can win 35 games, and you're in question of whether you get out of the lottery. But I just that's a lot of things to come together at one time.
Why did you choose
And I don't
Pluto?
think it's the intention of this season. Actually, I think that may be the more important thing. But I don't think that's where the intention of this season isn't to do that. The intention of this season is for Isaiah Collier to be out there guarding Ja Morant and show, okay, how are you going to do it? Because that's what you can. If you're going to be an NBA starting point guard, this is what you got to do. You got to take Ja Morant tonight, and you got to take, whoever the next night, and they're all different. And what's your matchup and how you handling it, and how are you going to be the 15th best point guard in the NBA? Keontae, how are you going to do this? Like, how are you not going to be rated the second worst defensive player in the NBA with only Corey Kispert behind you? What are you going to do? Like, that's what this year's about.
What's amazing to me is that Collier at one point was viewed as the number one recruit in the country. He can't shoot. How do you get that status?
I do think if you go back, this is actually worthwhile to do in the next segment because it's pretty interesting. If you go to Basketball Reference and go back, so if you go to Basketball Reference, Isaiah Collier, it shows you number one recruit, and go click on the rank of those players, it's pretty clear that because of COVID, nobody could rank players that year.
Oh.
I think the top 10 players, DJ, if you can pull it up really fast.
Yeah, he knows to go to you.
Go Basketball Reference, Isaiah Collier, and click on the rank. I believe of the top 10 players in that high school class, only one of them or two of them are in the NBA, and I'm not sure either of them become NBA.
Okay, I'm on Isaiah's page, but I don't know where to go to click on the rank.
So see where it says under his bio. See under it says his bio, it says high school rank, and it's got 1.
Yeah, you see it's right there.
His height, weight, rank.
Nope.
Yeah.
There's no rank.
No, it's right there.
Stop.
Okay. I'll send you a link, old man.
I got his Instagram, but I don't have his.
Okay, I'll send you a link.
Pops.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, yeah, see? I knew he could do it.
Yeah, there it is.
Got it. No, they had to
Put on
fold
your
it
reading
in.
glasses
You didn't
so you
hit
can
me.
find that?
You didn't hit me hit the drop down button.
Dixie cups.
So here it is. Ron Holland 2.
Okay.
Justin
NBA player.
Justin Edwards 3.
Undrafted free agent on Philadelphia right now. We'll see if he makes it.
Aaron Bradshaw 4.
Not in the league.
Cody Williams 5.
Okay, we'll see.
DJ Wagner Jr. 6.
Not in the league.
Modest Buzelis 7.
Probably the highest prospect right now, but we'll see.
Jacoby Walter 8.
Yeah.
Stephen Castle 9.
Yeah.
Mackenzie Mbako
Yeah, right.
10.
Yeah, keep going. Right? And then the next group is there's clearly some COVID scouting going on in that year.
Okay, there it is.
Whew. That was close, man. If
you can take the reading glasses off now.
If you hadn't figured it out, that would have been bad.
Actually, the show's streamed. People can see I have no glasses on right now.
Oh,
everyone.
Okay. And I have no clothes on right now.
Look at you.
No.
And I wonder the numbers are what they are.
Very, very low. Low.
And I still want to know, why did you choose Pluto
are you blurry?
And not
By
Uranus?
The way, are you blurry? Do they make you blurry on the stream video?
Blur out PK.
No, they just use Dixie cups.
Okay, great.
Come on, that was good.
Why do you do
People
this?
can see me smiling on camera.
Why do you do this?
It's not a belly laugh good, but it's good.
What your reaction was.
Did I mention that I love doing this every Friday, or did I say that I abhor it?
A little bit of both, probably, like everybody else. It's just kind of the show. I got news for you. It's not just Friday, David.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought it was only. I moved out of the 8 o'clock slot to 8:30, thinking it would change things.
Oh, you ought to be here at 9 o'clock. Yuck! Tell them about the 9 o'clock hour.
Man.
That's when PK really cuts loose.
Oh dear.
All right, David, we'll talk to you again.
I don't want anyone blurry with Dixie cups cutting loose.
Talk to you again in a week, David. You're the man.
See you. Bye.
That's you. Bye. DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. Stay with us.
Accessing.
This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G.
Maybe Indiana's a place where you can have metal piercing bullets. Can't imagine those are legal anywhere. Maybe they are. Metal piercing bullets?
Jeez.
What are you facing? What's the guy with a metal suit?
The Tin Man?
No. The guy from Weird Science plays him. Something Junior. He wears a metal suit. And like I was going to say...
RoboCop? Oh, that's a good
no,
one.
it's a guy that wears metal and flies around.
The Rocket Man. Rocketeer, sorry.
We've given you so many guys with metal suits.
You're not close.
I'm sorry.
Why are you mad at us?
Yeah,
look
how
Google
did
in
you
front of
get
you.
it?
Okay. Yeah, but I
Man in metal suit.
Iron Man.
Oh,
How did
why
you guys
didn't you
not get
say so?
Iron Man?
All the Iron Men I could think of.
Come up with 30 things
Guys
with
with
guys
tin
dressed
suits.
in metal. 30.
Truth is, I am Iron Man.
Catch Hanson Scotty weekdays from noon to 3 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The Hercules First Federal Credit Union Salt Lake County High School Player of the Week this week is Murray High School quarterback Phil Holland. Holland passed for 309 yards and 3 touchdowns while rushing for another as he helped the Spartans beat UNA 39-38 in overtime. Don't miss the KSL Sports Game Night Live Game of the Week tonight as the Davis Darts play host to the Fremont Silverwolves. Catch the action tonight at KSLSports.com, the KSL Sports app, or here on the KSL Sports Zone. The Salt Lake County Player of the Week Award is proudly presented by Hercules First Federal Credit Union. At Hercules, they're celebrating the everyday victories. Hercules First Federal Credit Union, growing stronger together. This is going to help me learn the nicknames of all these high schools.
All right, DJ and PK, David Locke was right. Hands down. Usually 18 of the top 20 high school, when they rank the top 20 high school players, 18 of them end up in the NBA.
18?
18 out of 20,
Wow.
2 years in a row, in 22 and 21. And then you get up to the Isaiah Collier year, and you got 3, 6, 9 of the top 20 were drafted. A few more look like they might have made it in as undrafted free agents.
Well,
I mean,
that's stunning. 18 and 20. That seems awfully high to me.
that they get that. But you always said the basketball rankings are better than football. It's because they see the best guys play against each
Right, but
other
I
in
meant
multiple
play
tournaments.
at college. I didn't know how it translated to the pros.
It's only 1 year later, and it translates well.
Okay.
It translates well. When they get to see all the tournaments. In the year they don't have all the tournaments, now they're hitting 50% instead of hitting 90%.
All right. Yeah.
So, DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone.